The next panel is Rethinking Startup Support, Unleashing the Potential of Science Transition. This panel will be led by Vaido Mikheim, who is Deep Tech Project Lead in Startup Estonia. He will be joined on the stage by amazing panelists who are coming to the stage pretty much right now. So please welcome to the stage Vaido, Direk, Ash, and Thomas.
Active right now, making investments?
Yes,
yeah.
we are active. Oh.
Oh.
All right, welcome. And I was considering for a moment, I had like a long speech prepared, what and how and I should tell. And then I thought that I will change it in the last second because it's the second day, lunchtime of the second day. It's almost the worst time whenever you can have a panel. And now suddenly here we are. And there is, the guys who had a really, really cool after party last night, they are also coming in and they are making a lot of noise there. So we have to match their energy. So this is a challenge for us as a panel that these guys who are returning or, maybe they haven't even had any sleep, but they're coming in from the after parties. Now it's up to us to match the energy. So without further ado, let me introduce the panelists very briefly by myself. By my own words, and then they will correct me wherever I go wrong. So first I have Dilek. She had a list of decorations longer than I am, and then I stood up, that I'm quite a tall guy. Her list of decorations is far longer. By background, mechanical engineer, guest lecturer at Stanford University, and managing partner at ScaleX Ventures, investing into cyber, to bioinformatics, into multiple things. Then I'm returning to Thomas afterwards because I have some really nice things to say about you. So we go to Ash, nuclear research organization, CERN, been to 4 continents at least, maybe to 5.
4.
Only 4, okay. So has seen the world, has seen many broken things, as I heard, has seen few successful things as well. So, and burns really, with a passionate fire about everything, maybe with the exception of cricket, right?
Yeah. That's religion.
Yeah, and then last but not least, we have Thomas from Cassini Initiative, so Space Tech Entrepreneurship Initiative, and also has done something what I kind of translated as strategy for biotech for EU. So both the space and the strategy might involve dark matters, and Thomas will hopefully, or maybe he will not tell about it, but we will see. And my first question goes to you. You could literally do whatever you want. That you have skills, you have experience, you have know-how, and yet you have chosen the area where you are in today. So what made you choose these relatively interesting and difficult positions? So I'll start with Dilek.
Go with Dilek.
Thank you for the introductions. We will have a really hard work today at the panel. So, as you said, I'm a mechanical engineer, but first part of my life, I said, okay, I want to find my passion. And I ended up finding my passion in venture capital in a different way. I love helping founders, technical founders mostly. I love technology. And I'm an explorer. I want to help them grow globally. But I also find I can create the biggest impact that I can create on Earth. And I'm lucky that I'm good at my passion as a business too. So that's why I'm doing it.
All right, a lot of passion involved there. Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm also passionate about technology, though I'm an economist, and I'm working with the space industry because this is really the future. We are benefiting from space technology and space data every day. On your mobile phones, you have plenty of apps that are using space data all the time. You can't make an online payment without having the timestamp and location stamp to validate your payments and so on. But I'm also passionate about Europe. I want us to build together a prosperous and secure Europe. And in the past year, you've all seen why this matters so much to us, right?
All right, so you're one of the few examples of really mission-driven persons that you can sleep peacefully at nights and with a clear consciousness. Ash, what about you and your consciousness?
I was heavily influenced by Richard Feynman, the physicist, who said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So my life's pursuit is be the dumbest in the room. And that led me to every top university where I definitely was not the smartest person in the room. So for me, it's CERN. I have no doubt I'm not the smartest person in the room. So for me, one is that. The second one is actually, the scientists behind all of the things that we work with are often the ones that we don't celebrate. And for me, they are the ones, they do a lot of stuff that I can't even dream about doing. So I have massive respect for what they do. And same thing for entrepreneurs. I can't do what they do as well. So for me, I put both of them on a pedestal, and if they are the same person, they're my heroes.
I think this is one of the finest passive-aggressive compliments that one has ever made about themselves. That, you had to be the dumbest person in the room. You ended up in the nuclear research organization to find that room. That this is brilliant. I wish I will grow up and be like you, that I have to reach to that level to be the dumbest person in the room. Right now, I can't even find the questions in this tablet from the audience. So, there is a QR code. Supposedly, it should transmit some of the questions here into this tablet. Maybe somebody will come and help me find them later on. Meanwhile, I'm going to continue with my own. So, markets and businesses are in constant motion. Some say that's even the only, stable fact. That changing, evolving, sometimes also deteriorating and disappearing. Do you see the similar growth and evolution in startup ecosystems? Or are we still equipped with business model canvases and product market fits and mentoring, and we are slapping with the startups, with the same tools over and over? So let's start this time with Ash.
Look, so for me, the business plan canvases and everything had a purpose on validation at some point in time, customer discovery and all of that. But where I have a problem with that is when it's shoved down for everyone. So you're a scientist. So imagine I work at CERN. If I get an Einstein, I'm going to have to go tell him, your marketing skills, not up to mark. That for me is a travesty. They're good at what they do, and I think they should be good at what they do. I reckon if we can help them grow, that's brilliant, but not to try to fit everybody into fail fast, pivot. If you're building a laser company, you're not going to pivot to something else which doesn't have a light. It has to have a light. And if you fail fast means after $2 million to build a prototype to get there. So the narrative violation comes in when you're going to say, I'm going to take work for software-based models and try to shove it to other people. That's like asking, an elephant and a monkey to climb the tree and asking the elephant saying, you're not that good. Kind of doesn't help.
Thomas Tilek, do you want to compliment?
Well, yeah, I agree that if we would only use the lean startup model, it's a bit like trying to use the IT software development model for everything else. It may not always be appropriate, as Ash says. A lot of the space companies that we are working with and trying to help actually have very sophisticated technology solutions behind them, and they may come from technology backgrounds. So there's a lot of focus there. So they still need to look at what is the future business, what are the future customers, and acquire skills to convince the investors, to convince the corporate partners and the customers and so on. So there are bits and pieces here and there that you still need to have.
I do have a follow-up question for this one, and then I will go to Dilek. You mentioned that space companies, novel technologies, novel software solutions. I just a few days back saw a meme about Microsoft Excel that, this is a very old piece of software and it's very resilient. So do you see the space tech companies still using Excel?
I wouldn't want to reveal what our entrepreneurs are using, but Excel is a simple and very powerful tool, though we can probably come up with better solutions for the future, right?
Yeah, we'll come back to that one a little later. And this panel is not promoted or supported by Microsoft in any way. So, Dilek, your opinions on the tool?
So, before I jump into the answer, do we have any technical founders in the room?
Any founders in the room?
Okay.
Both. Excellent.
Just two. So, just to give you my perspective, so I've been helping founders from 0 to 1. Not like Peter Thiel, mostly is 0 to no revenue to 1 million, let's say. And what I see, lean startup kind of works, but also doesn't work in a way. Because now you can test your ideas. You have to make some research in advance, test your ideas online, or do smoke tests, and then measure it, and also think about the traction. I think the biggest problem with the lean startup, you never think about the traction at the first place. And also Reforge, if you don't know it, please Google it. It's an amazing community and learning space. How to think about the product market fit in the new world. They give you amazing tools and tips. But also for the technical founders or technical marketing at the first days, I think crossing the chasm tool set is the best that I saw. After founders reading that, they see like the engineering mindset in the marketing. So they have a formula that they can apply to their business. Those two are the new ones that I use so much, but it's always understanding your context, where you want to go, what is your biggest struggle. So it depends your reality, I think, at the end of the day.
Well, that's the kind of universal answer to everything, is that it depends. Meanwhile, we have gotten in the first question from the audience, so thank you, Sophia. Now I can feel good about myself. I have found how this tablet thing works, and I encourage others to ask questions as well. And since Sophia was first, let me take this question immediately in. Thomas, what does Cassini offer to investors?
To the investors, so Cassini is a European initiative to boost space entrepreneurship all over Europe, right? And we have set up an investment facility with at least a €1 billion capacity. So investors can get capital from the European Investment Fund and then invest this into space-related businesses. And you can combine it with any other field, automation, robotics, IoT, whatever you want to. So this is one of the things we offer investors. And we also have Cassini Matchmaking as a networking arena.
Okay.
Nice.
So I have another hypothesis that I need to test. In the space tech business, there goes a saying that in order to become a space millionaire, you first have to be a space billionaire. So you are providing $1 billion then to make space millionaires. Or does it work the other way around as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's a capital-intensive industry for sure, and the risks have been substantial. But what we're seeing now is that a lot of startups, we see so many exciting startups come up with new, exciting ways to solve problems that will be much more cost-efficient and that will also, de-risk projects. So I think if you give it a bit of time, you will see that there will be profitable exits in many of these investments.
I will follow this one up because most tech companies, and especially deep tech companies, they have every imaginable risk that you can just think of. Technology risk, product risk, market risk, execution risk, so on and so forth. What's your experience in the space industry? Are those risks being diminishing, or at least showing a little trend going lower? Or do you see the increase in risk still?
It's difficult to say generally, but if the startups work together with ESA, the European Space Agency, one of the key things is obviously to validate the technology, validate the use cases, and so on. So they can get a lot of help from ESA. Can also work with our space agency, EUSPA in Prague, to figure out, how do we create a product that is validated and has credibility on the market. So these are ways to de-risk. I think we have a sufficient number of success stories already to show that it does work already.
All right. I have a question which I can combine with a question from the audience. So the question that I devised was about suitable mechanism and relevant skills for the deep techs in the modern age, in this current century. And then we have a question from the audience to Dilek that can we please spell and repeat those product market tips and platforms slowly once more. So,
Okay.
Let's take the question of suitable mechanisms and relevant skills to all, but let's start with repeating the ones that were already said by you once.
Okay, I will share also my Twitter, but it's Reforge, the growth learning platform. It's an online platform, amazing. You have to check it out. And the tools that they provide, product market fit narrative creation, you can go and check it out to test your ideas. And Crossing Chasm is Geoffrey Moore, is an amazing guy who kind of cracked the technology marketing. telling you the technology, innovation, adoption. I can go on and on.
But please,
please
do, valuable stuff. So we have still 19 minutes and 34 seconds.
After the panel, you can find me if you're interested. I can give you the whole list.
All right. So, and she might demand some equity in return, but maybe not. So, guys, what about you? Any good tips about mechanisms and tools?
Look, so for me, there's a bigger concept where what we want a lot of founders to do is to figure out unit economics, but not just unit economics for deep tech startups. You start to go through what's your capex, what's your opex. You're going to buy a 500,000 euro equipment. You still need an operator. You have to pay 100,000 euros to run it. If you don't add that up and figure out how much it's going to cost you to produce it, you won't calculate your margins, and then you will not make profit, right? For me, that is the fundamental law of capitalism. If you don't figure that out, you are never going to get sustained to see the next quarter, right? And that's one part of where I think it's fundamental, even to build a model to saying that, you know what, my numbers are going to be way off. I'm probably going to be 2x off of this. But at least you have a number to work off with. If you think your chip is going to cost 2,000 euros to make it, see if you can sell it for 2,500. And if you can get your costs down, your profits will go up. But that fundamental part sits in your canvas as cost and price, and everybody puts a sticky note there, voila, we're done, right? But there's where you start developing that, you go and saying, who do I buy it from? Do I build it, buy it? Can I get a contractor to do it so that I can go sell my first product? I reckon that's a big part, irrespective of what tool you use. We actually use this amazing tool called Excel to do it, right? Because it's addition, subtraction, put a box in, it works brilliant. So for me, it's not the tool that's required, but it's just the basic thing of have you thought through it and see which are the levers you control to get to profitability. It's not users here. It's not, I'm going to be growth focused. Now, deep tech, you still need to sell the damn thing.
So unit economics. Thomas, what about you?
Yeah, I absolutely have to echo what Ash is saying about unit economics. This is so important. We can see that the entrepreneurs have improved their ability to pitch by being able to explain a bit the customers and the market, right? So the next thing is obviously to be able to explain your unit economics. This is quite often missing totally from the pitches. And this is your ticket to get a serious discussion with the investor, right? As enthusiastic as you can be about the technology and so on, yeah, it's going to go to space and so on, you need to figure out what is the cost structure, what is the revenue structure, does this work, at a low volume, at a medium volume, at a higher volume. So this is your ticket to the investors.
Absolutely.
So the dry numbers, I see that you, Dilek, want to comment on this one as well. So I will add on a small question that how often do you see that the startups that are coming to you and asking for an investment or pitching their idea, how often they have the unit economics in place?
Okay, it depends. Between pre-seed to Series A, let's say, if you are coming closer to Series A, you kind of know unit economics. I think before that, it's discovering your unit economics too. So it's a phase, you have hypotheses, you go out there, test it with the customers, then you learn. But at least I expect them to make some research about the idea and the plan, but not the details, to be honest. I'm more into, I think I've been working with a lot of founders. More than half of my portfolio has PhDs. Some of them are like cutting edge science, some of them like really good engineers. Where they usually fail is, usually they fell in love with the tech, not the problem. That's the biggest gap happens. And I also realized, I was always saying, okay, go talk to customers. So it's like the rule that we all know. And I've been to some of the calls with many of them. And I realized, even me, by the way, I learned along the way. My age helped with that, actually. But along the way, you see they don't even know to ask the right questions and get the answers. So like finding those customers, testing your hypothesis is really critical. And I want to give you a really good research done by Bocconi. I love it. Adam Grant made it so famous. Like entrepreneurs flew into Milan for 3 or 4 months. They got accelerator program. They separated into 2 groups. They got the same training. Only one group was a control group. The other group had the scientific thinking class on the top of their accelerator learnings or classes, let's say, which is your idea doesn't matter. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but you have a theory, and you go test it out there like a scientist and get feedback from them and see which hypothesis is working or not. And at the end of the day, that scientific thinking group performance 40 times better than the other group. So I think that mindset and thinking is really important at the early days for me.
So this is one for the scientists, and our friends from after parties are cheering loudly outside. So let's spice it up here. Dilek said that it's as easy as go out there and ask right questions. So I'm going to ask what are the right questions, but I'm not asking them from Dilek. I'm asking this from Thomas and Ash, and then Dilek will say whether they were the right questions or not. So,
okay.
The answer is always right.
So Ash, you can go first. What are the good questions to ask? And then Dilek, please, be as harsh on Ash as you can.
Look, for me, I'm always come from a sales background, right? Always be closing. But for that, the basic thing is to let the other people speak. For me, one of the scientist problem is, let me finish my 60 slide deck, tell you all about the technology. The key thing is learn when to shut up, right? Give the other person a chance to actually tell them what they want. Now, for me, one of the trainings we did was to figure out, put your customers into 3 buckets, right? The first one was you want to target are the ones who are pulling their hair to saying, I have a problem, I don't care what you sell. If this will fix it and I can sleep at home, I'll buy it, right? Mm-hmm. You want to target those folks. How do you fix them? Ask them what their problems are. If your solution is not in their problems, go to the next person. But let them speak all your problems so you can go back to it later and saying, oh, maybe I can pivot to fix that problem. But if your value proposition is not in their problem list and they're not pulling their hair out, you're wasting your time.
So I saw that Dilek was like, yes, like you got it, like you nailed it.
He got it.
So you passed the test, you may stay on the stage. Thomas, now it's your turn.
So,
no pressure.
when the entrepreneurs have pitched, the investors often ask, okay, so what is your customer revenue and when will you break even? But instead of asking that, why don't you try to ask, what is your gross margin when you sell 1 unit to a customer? Because then you have to go into the cost structure and the revenue structure and figure out, do they even have a grasp of how they can start producing these things and shipping them to the customer and doing the aftermarket services and everything? And if they don't have a grasp of that, there are some things still to do before they will get a larger investment.
All right. So are you happy with this answer, or should Thomas go through some training?
He's good.
Okay, he's good. We are on the bold stage, and as the name hints, there are some bold dudes in the audience as well, asking some bold questions. So we are being challenged here. So I'm combining the questions from Marco and Dave. So Marco is asking, what's the biggest blocker you have noticed when it comes to transforming deep tech to startups? And I will add Dave's question here as well. So far, it was only about actual startup support. But let's address the elephant in the room. How can we leverage on creating more spin-offs from universities and push the tech transfer at an early stage? So I understand this is a Pandora's box. We could stay here until late evening discussing those. But where does the potential disappear? Let's test that. Do people in the audience think that there is potential at universities? Hands up those who think there is. All right. So people do think there is potential in universities. So where does it vaporize?
So can I jump in?
Yeah, you can jump in.
So you all know Stability AI, which actually commercialized LMU's algorithms at the end, or licensed it. So I really believe in universities. The problem that I see usually, on my experience, 2 things. I think good entrepreneurs are generalists or T-shaped characters. T-shaped personality means you are deep in one topic, but you can go horizontal too. So you have to learn so many new things. Marketing, sales, recruitment. What do I need? What is my strategy? How am I going to sell it? So you have to learn so many. If you can't be a T-shaped person, If you can't leave your ego at the door, that it becomes the biggest struggle or bottleneck to commercialize. That's what I see.
I'm crying inside. I'm not a T-shaped person. So meanwhile, while I get over this sadness about myself, Thomas, what's your take on the questions?
On research coming from universities, we've seen a lot of interesting products coming from universities. They often go via the accelerators that we have in most of the European countries, right? For example, the ESA BICs. But it's the same as for all other entrepreneurs. You have to figure out what are the actual use cases and what are your customers, right? It doesn't get easier because you have filed a patent very early on for your research discovery or something like that. You need to work really and find business people as well to recruit to your team. And use the network around you to try to see if you can partner up with, for example, a larger corporation to test the product, get a letter of intent to test the product, and if it does work, that they buy a few units of this product, then you have a validation by a real customer, even if it's just at small scale.
Okay, so start small, scale fast. Ash, I saved you for the last with a good reason that we discussed this behind the stage a little bit, how the university model is failing. So
right. So the first disclosure, I've worked with tech transfer in 5 universities across 3 continents, and the fundamental challenges are the same across all continents, right? For me, where does the problem start with creating more spin-offs out of labs? The genesis of the problem is tech transfer is structured. You take the IP, give it to a large company, they fit it, build a product, and pay you royalty. And it works with life sciences like a glove in hand. The companies know when to license it. They'll license it at a provisional stage. They know it's a 10-year play. You have to go through FDA approvals before you, or go through certifications, make the device, make licenses. And you've got about 10 companies, large companies, who will license the IP. That's the standard linear process, which works all the time. Where does it fail is you try to license it and nobody takes it up, especially with physical sciences, sensors, non-living things. And that was what always I used to do. Then you go try to find a licensee, like, by the time the patent comes in, the technology moves on, you don't want a license. So you're left with either the postdoc or the professor saying, this is inventive, I'm going to go do this, I'll prove all of you wrong, there's a market to it. So that's where those spin-offs come in the first place. Whereas the biggest roadblock I see is all of the universities, associated incubators, associated VCs within the university system look at the US and want to copy the same vanity metrics. Number of startups, number of money they raise, blah, 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 blah. For me, it's like you had nothing to do with that. Count on your KPIs as how fast did you get the agreement? How happy were those founders coming from the university? What's your NPS score? They wouldn't want to count that because those numbers would be abysmal, right? So you don't count that because those numbers don't look good. But the reality is your only job, as what I look at it, is I'm a service organization within a research lab. My job is to make sure my key customers, who are the researchers, are happy with what service I provide. I don't care if they're successful because I am not taking a part of it, right? They've got 99 problems. The agreement, or for them, the freedom to operate should not be one. And that's where the whole tech transfer view set has to change to saying, can I make sure they talk with Dilek and then she writes the check, or to a fund of funds so that they can go and scale up? That's not my job to do, to saying that I'm going to get the money, I'm going to control. Is that trust versus control, as you said? How much trust do you have the founders to go let them do it? So my biggest view or strongest view is get out of the way. How fast can you reduce bureaucracy and measure on time to get them the deal done?
So what you're saying is that get rid of the tech transfer offices from the universities. That would solve the issue.
Or put them in their place to do one thing and one thing well.
What's your take, Thomas and Dilek, on this one? Have you seen successful or well-operating tech transfer offices?
I probably know Sweden a little bit better than the other countries. I think that tech transfer offices are still doing an important job in advising the researchers on what the different options are. And secondly, to advise them not to take any offer from, let's say, a foreigner from another continent who just wants to buy the license for the whole technology for, for a few bucks. Because that happens a lot. There is a lot of scouting going on. So there are a few different distinct roles for the TTOs still to carry out, even if they don't take any ownership stakes in, it depends, country by country.
Tilak, you're knee-deep on the field. You must see these types of companies day long, maybe all night long as well.
So I won't give any names overall, but how I look at things is I look at it as an entrepreneurship no matter what. Now it's merging with science, advanced engineering, and design thinking at the end of the day. If they are able to bring all these together, then they usually become successful. And as a fund, I always want to do like scientific investments, even in a small bucket, to even helping other portfolio companies to see where the science is going, where the cutting edge technology is. But it's really hard comparing to other companies. It takes longer, it requires more money. But if they find that product market fit, then it's flying.
This leads to us to another question from the audience. But before I get to that, there is a praise for Ash that there is an audience member who said that he never expected a Jay-Z reference at Deep Tech stage. So,
And that Swiss short is amazing too.
And now to the actual question, is the VC model the best fit for science-based solutions? And at what stage? I saw Thomas's eyebrows raise. So I assume you want to take it first.
You want me to take?
I think Ash could go first.
Okay.
No one wants to answer.
Trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I was hoping somebody would ask me to shut up. The VC model is good because what the academics are used to is grant money. There's no accountability, right? You send a report, you get a Horizon 22 grant, you first the research, you publish it, you're good. Nobody's ever come with a stick to them and saying, you said you will make these milestones, what are you doing, deliver. Nobody is chasing them. For me, I like the VC model because suddenly, as a professor who you were, your own fiefdom, you controlled everything, suddenly you got a boss who's going to pull the strings on you, right?
Are we the
Which
boss?
I like it because they have a fire behind to go pursue that. Where I find it challenging is the valuation numbers that go for a software startup are the same that's used for a hardware startup. You got a patent portfolio of 10 patents, which means that you've sunk almost $500,000 in patent costs, right? Your valuation has to reflect that. You want to buy equipment for $2 million, your valuation has to do that. It's not like buying a MacBook 2 and then going and building a product. It's not the same.
Thomas, your add-ons to that?
Yeah,
I know we are running out of time, but still.
So I would like to complement that by saying that, if you get a venture capital investor or if you get a business angel early on, they surely have expectations, right? Sometimes you can just try to experiment for a while and so on, but there should be some pressure from the investors that you actually perform. And for this to work, there needs to be an understanding, an agreement between the entrepreneurial team and the investors. What are the relevant metrics and milestones to follow? And if your investor does not put any pressure on you, or rather, leaves you to do whatever you want to, may mean that they have lost interest and they will not make any follow-on investments. And that is a kind of a risky situation. So let's keep the pressure up. But try to get other funding sources in the early stages so that you are not getting into the VC model too early. What would you say about this?
So, I also did a lot of angel investments. I was really active. As an angel, I did whatever I want, like genetic data analysis, cutting edge AI. But as a VC, you have fund of funds or LPs. You promise them to return their money in 10 years. There's a different math behind it. I still love investing in those companies, like maybe 20% of my portfolio, because I know it's going to take longer. It might going to require more money. But at the end of the day, I only look for like why that founder, why that market, why now question. So if I'm able to answer those, I totally invest. I want to invest.
So we are completely out of time now, but before they throw us out of the stage, one final takeaway message for the audience. Let's start with you, Ash. And only the first, lyrics, not the whole song.
Look, for me, it's, the model of entrepreneurs should change to reflect the science part of it. There are two different streams. The generalization bit of it is where I see the struggle. One size does not fit all. Deep tech startups need to have their own path to market and build up.
All right, Thomas, you.
And my takeaway is that the space market will be booming in the next years, both for space infrastructure, but also for data exploitation. And this is an area where we are really strong in Europe with analytics and AI.
That's a good message. Everybody loves space. Nobody is ex-space. Yes. So, Dilek.
So when I first started this job, I always looked for details, techniques, but I realized it's all about mindset. So I would encourage you to go read about that book, Scientific Thinking. Even for myself, I realized like taking out of myself from that equation and looking from outside makes a big difference to execute.
So you have been a great panel. Very brief summary from my side is that it seems that startups and investors, they have learned to talk from the stage at least. The pitching skills have gone better. Now we need to learn how to do the basic mathematics. So that's the next thing in our tuitions and everywhere there. So thank you for the panel. Thank you for the audience. Thank you for the questions. It was wonderful to be with you here. And hopefully you got some Jay-Z nuggets out of this.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.